Come on, man. Here we go. Yeah, it says starting, and nothing's happening. I'll stand by. Let's see. Well, we're on YouTube anyway, so whoever's watching on YouTube, hello. We're standing by to connect to Facebook. Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports. Alongside Chris, as usual, I am Paul. We are very happy to be sponsored by John Seed, Attorney, New Bedford, 156 8th Street in New Bedford, Lakeville Athletic Club in Lakeville, Massachusetts, Citywide Glass with locations in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton, and Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Thank you for your support. Well, let's cut him loose. He's been dying to get cut loose here. He's wearing those cowboy clothing and everything else. So let him have it. Those Patriot fans who are rooting for Tom Brady and against the Cowboys and all that. Good night for you the other night.
It was a good night for me the other night, Paul. But listen, before we begin anything, and I want to thank our sponsors, but I also want to introduce one of our new members to our team. Oh. And I want to welcome this guy right here. I want to welcome Samuel Santos to our show. Paul, congratulations on being a grandfather. This is for you.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, for those who haven't heard, my wife and I became grandparents on 1/1/1/2/3. All right, January 11th of 2023. Samuel, as you can see right there. Hey, thank you very much. We're very, very excited and thankful for my son Dylan, who works up at the garden part-time, my daughter-in-law Stephanie, and Samuel Santos. That's right.
So there he is. I want to welcome Samuel. I hope he's going to watch this show for a long time. But I know he didn't watch the game the other night because he was being born at that time. But that being said, yeah, it was a good night to be a Cowboy fan. It was a good night to show, and I'm hoping they continue to show on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. Dak showing some of the things that he can do. A good running game with Pollard, good defense with Micah Parsons, and getting to Brady. And anytime, obviously, you can win on the road in playoff football against, obviously, the GOAT. It's extremely encouraging. We're back on the road this week against a very good San Fran team who was 3-4. Went 4-4, and they've never looked back. And you know they're right where they want to be too. So hopefully, I'm hoping it's a good game. Expecting that in both ways. Maybe low scoring, a little bit more defense, maybe from both teams compared to scoring a lot of points. So hopefully we can keep it close, get down the end, and see what we can do in San Fran. Back to the days of Aikman and Steve Young battling and going at it.
Well, Tampa Bay has had a lot of problems on offense this year. I have to confess, I haven't watched them that much, but I've seen some of the highlights. There are a lot of games where they look just like they did against the Cowboys. A lot of problems, even with Brady back there. Offensive line, to me, seemed horrendous. And it goes to show you that it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If you haven't got an offensive line, forget it. I mean, he was just ducking and everything else. But the thing is, I think for the first time, he kind of looked like he didn't want to get hit. And he, you know what I mean? He started to show his age a little bit. Doesn't mean he can't come back next year and play a little bit more, but I didn't think he looked that good. But then again, he didn't look that good the last year he was with the Patriots either. But I thought maybe there was one little comeback that maybe in the second half, if Dallas would have made a mistake, maybe he would crawl back into it. But they were basically toast throughout the whole night.
Yeah, the players of Fournette, Mike Evans, Godwin, Cameron Brate, still some of the same players that they've had in the past. Offensive line banged up. And I think that's where Dallas kind of got to him. Really rushed up the middle, which I know Tom doesn't kind of like. He likes to sit in that pocket, but when you get the pressure, now you got to roll right, roll left. So now you get a little bit more, a little tight and tougher for him to move at 45 years old. And then on the opposite end, I thought their defense started pretty good, but not as efficient as they have been in the years past that have got them successful in Tampa. So, things are going to happen. Things are going to change down there. They'll make some moves, but stats still prove, if you're talking stats, that Tom still has the package, still can throw his touchdowns, limits his interceptions, still throws for yardage, completions. So, he's still there. We'll talk about this a little bit later in conversation to what people out here think where Tom Brady's going to do next year. There's our number 774-762-6234. So when we get to Tom, call us and let us know what you think about him. But let's talk about what's happening this weekend, Paul.
Well, there is something I wanted to ask you first, and that is you have this thing where you find this annoying that these Patriot fans, right, they've been kind of like giving you the business for the last 20 years, right?
Yep.
How come the Patriots aren't America's team and all this kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And Brady goes down to Tampa, and all of a sudden people that used to live in Massachusetts with all the Patriot gear, they're all geared up in Tampa outfits. I saw that. My own family, like, what are you doing with the Tampa Bay hat? Well, Tom Brady, blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute, I'm a Patriots fan. I'm not going to be wearing the Tampa Bay hat.
Yep.
So that kind of, that didn't sit well with you too much there.
No, it doesn't, because to me, when you're a fan of one team. Now, I was late 70s. I became a Cowboy fan, and I've stuck with them ever since. If Tony Romo took off or Danny White or Roger Staubach, I would still be just a Dallas fan. My thing is, in my life, I think you pick one team, and that's the team when you stay with. Now, if you hate Dallas, I have no problem with that. And if you want to root for Tampa, I have no problem. But all of a sudden to sit back and say, well, the Pats are out, I'm now a Tampa fan, Tampa's my team, I have a problem with that. The problem is you should have one team and one team only. And that's what I believe in. And there's a lot of people around here that don't do that. And unfortunately, it was a team that had to play mine, so it made it even more. So just stay with the one team, and I'll be very happy. If you don't like my team, no problem. I get it. I understand the whole thing. But root for your team to beat them. That's your team to win. Not jump on someone else's team because somebody was playing there. That happens to be a Brady thing. It is what it is, and people have moved down there to follow it and still say, hey, I'm a Tampa fan because I'm down there, even though they're true Patriot fans. So, yeah, it kind of gets to me a little bit.
It's actually much more enjoyable when you stick with your team through the down years. I mean, I remember the Joe Thornton years, those years in the 90s, the Bruins were terrible. Yep. And you stick with them, and then they came back, 2011, won the Cup. It's so enjoyable. The Red Sox, all those years they couldn't get over the hump, and they finally did,
Mm-hmm.
If you're rooting for this team and that team and that team, the other team, you're not going to get the joy when they finally win if you're not with them through thick and thin.
Oh, well, listen, they'll definitely say, well, this is my team when they do win it. So they can have all them bad years. But listen, it's 32 teams, only one can win. So, I want to be happy where at least every year I'm consistent enough with my team that they take advantage, they can make playoffs, they can make a run for it. Obviously, you have to stick to the bad times. There's going to be years where you just can't get to the playoffs, and that's kind of frustrating. And then you look for what you can do in the offseason, trades, drafts, personnel changes, anything you can. But that's what I look for every year, and that's what I get pumped about for the following year, to see how we can improve, get better, what positions we need, personnel, coaching, whatever, and try to find a way to get back to the playoffs and hopefully win again, which again is very difficult. It's 32 teams. Other teams have to start winning too.
Well, we have that question out there. What do you think is going to happen with Brady now, right? I don't think he's going to stay at Tampa Bay. I think he wanted to get out of there last year. One team that has been kind of mentioned through the press and so forth on the talk show host, Las Vegas, maybe Miami. New England, I don't think there's any chance he would come back here. And I don't know that we would want to do that anyway. I mean, greatest of all time and all that. But, the Patriots really are trying to build for the long haul, so I don't know that I would want to see that anyway. But where's he going to go? Where do you think he's going to go? Give us a call at 774-762-6234. And maybe Does he call it quits? I don't know. I don't think he wants to have his last game be the one that was the other night. I just don't think that's in his DNA.
I don't believe so either. I think he will come back again to another team next year. In my mind, he's down south. He may like it there. Miami has tampered with him twice, 2019 and 2021, and got disciplined for it. So they know, and he knows what they want and what they're looking for. Pieces of the puzzle of Jeff Wilson, Mostert, Gesicki at tight end, Tyreek Hill, Waddle, some great guys on that team, even with Chubbs on the defensive side. So they're looking to try to win now. That could be a possibility right there to stay in that area and hit with Miami. Me personally, I think Vegas could be a good fit for him. They got a young Waller who I think is outstanding, a young Josh Jacobs who I think is very good at running back. Obviously, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, another good squad that can really look impressive on that offensive side with a consistent quarterback. I just don't think Derek Carr is too consistent enough. And then you figure out what that defense needs to bring to the table, and that will help by having Tom, score a little bit more, or at the same time, maybe they can create and do some other challenges because they know what Tom has in the back. And I think you'd like Vegas. If it's the NFL, Paul, how about the New York Jets? The limelight of New York City. I think the NFL would love Tom Brady there. And they're not that bad. They're starting to advance a little bit. They got some decent running backs. They got some decent wide receivers, a good tight end, a good defensive coach. It could be interesting. Another team would be the New York Jets. So I think those are the three possibilities. And then if not, Paul, how do you turn down a 10-year, $375 million NFL analyst contract by Fox Sports? You could sit back and say, what do I got to play for? I've done everything. I'm all set. I'm going to be the lead analysis for Fox Sports, 10 years, $375 million. How do you leave that on the table? Kind of tough.
Well, assuming he does come back for one more year, I've got somebody on the line who thinks there's a pretty good fit. Chops, the 49ers guy, what's going on?
Hey, what's happening, fellas? How you guys doing?
Now, wait a minute. You would actually like to see Brady next year on the 49ers?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to see him on the 49ers, man.
Oh, yeah. Why do you say that?
Well, that's his team he wanted to play for. His hometown, San Francisco, they say.
Yeah, he grew up rooting for him and everything.
Yeah, he grew up rooting for Joe Montana.
Yeah.
One of the best quarterback, the best quarterback, the GOAT.
Oh, the real GOAT, huh? Oh.
The real GOAT.
Yeah, well, yeah, but Brady did it for longer.
Yeah, well, Montana, they traded him off. I think it was a bad thing they did for Montana.
Well, the other thing, too, is the quarterbacks got hit a lot more back then, too. But anyway, there's going to be a big game coming up this weekend between the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
You're pulling for 49ers. Chris is pulling for the Cowboys. You guys are both hardcore, loyal fans. How do you see the game, Chops?
What'd you say, Paul?
I said, how do you see this matchup?
Oh, I see if the 49ers put pressure on him, he throws a lot of interceptions, man. All you got to do is put pressure on him, and he'll throw a lot of interceptions, a lot of picks. We got to put pressure on him, and we get him to pick him off and go in the end zone. They're saying the same thing about Brock because he's young, that they can put pressure on him. But that boy is, I knew it was something about him. He's very special. He's a very special quarterback, Brock Purdy. I think he's going to pull it out. I think he's going to take us to the Super Bowl.
Well, Chops, it's very interesting that you say that because it is a rookie quarterback. It's a late draft pick. He has looked, he's looked really good. Even in his first playoff game against Seattle, he's finding the targets he needs to find. But at the same time, that's what intrigues me about saying that Tom Brady could go there. Now you have a Brock Purdy who's done well. You had invested money with Jimmy G, and you invested money with Trey Lance. You got a lot of things going on there with three quarterbacks. How do you put that in the back burner and say, okay, I'll give 1 year to Tom Brady? Because I can't see Brady playing more than 1 or 2 years, right?
That's right. I agree with you. 1 or 2 years. I think you got 1 or 2 years, two good years left in him. I think so.
Yeah.
You look good. I think you look good in that game. I think the guys are dropping the ball. You can't. I mean, he can't play. What does his wife say? He can't play and catch it too.
Yeah, that was that great quote by Giselle a few years ago. My husband can't throw the ball and catch it both at the same time. Oh man, that was when Wes Welker dropped the ball. Man, she got in big trouble for that. Tom said, "Don't say."
But she's right though.
Well, she's right, but obviously, if Purdy does well and they go all the way to the Super Bowl, it's kind of hard to pull him out then. But it does go to show you that if you've got the right team. And again, credit to Purdy, right? But he's a guy who was picked last, dead last in the draft, and because he's on a good team, right? That's part of the reason why he's doing well.
Well, he's got all those weapons around him, so he don't really need to do too much.
Right.
He don't have to throw downfield unless he has to, unless somebody's open. Because he got with McCaffrey, he got Elijah, he got Kittle, he's got IU, he's got Debo. Man, he's got a lot of weapons. A lot of weapons. So all he got to do is orchestrate it. That's it. You know what I mean?
Well, he does, and I'm expecting a good hardcore game, chops like we saw when Steve Young was around and Aikman was playing, and
exactly.
Some of them battles that they had out there. Looking for one of those close kind of games, and someone takes it down at the end and finds a way to win it for their team. But the addition of Christian McCaffrey for this team,
he's a great addition.
What that guy can give you, and it's not about running. He's a hard runner, we know that. But out of the backfield, he's going to take any linebacker on one-on-one and make him look silly. So he is that good. Right. That acquisition right there could put them right over the top and into a Super Bowl just by him alone.
I agree with you 100% because you can put him in a slot right against the linebacker. Linebacker gets there. He's got moves too. Yeah. And you know what the main thing is? He's athletic, man. He's not just a running back. He's athletic too. He can go up and get it. He can catch it. He can do anything. I mean, he got moves too. So that makes him hard to deal with. I
totally agree that this is going to be something that Dallas will really have to focus on, trying to find a way to contain him. I don't think they can stop him. They got to find a way to contain him and force Purdy to beat you somewhere else. But you have weapons like Ayuk, Samuel, and Kittle. So that's where they come back and kill you when you focus on one guy.
They can't double team anybody because once you double team somebody's going to be open.
Yeah, I agree.
But, the 49ers, people argue that they have perhaps the best defense in the league. And we talk about it all the time. The league, the rules in the league have been in such favor of the offense because people want to see offense, and they limit the defense, and any little thing you do, it's holding. Any little thing you do, it's pass interference, all that. Having said all that, in today's NFL, so offensive oriented, right? Does defense still win championships even now?
Defense, man. It's all about defense, man.
You still think
defense, so? Oh yeah. Defense is the key. They got a good defense. So what they're going to do is, I think, being a football player, ex-football player myself, is put pressure on Wesley because he throws a lot of interceptions, man. Once you move him out that pocket, and you get what's his name? I forget his name for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he throws a lot of interceptions.
Prescott, yeah.
Yeah, Prescott. He throws a lot of interceptions, man. You rattle him, it's all over for him. You rattle him, you got the game.
All right. Well, let's see what happens. It's going to be a very interesting afternoon. Somebody's going to be yelling at the TV. Maybe both of you will be yelling at the TV.
Matter of fact, I'm going to write the 49ers organization and the coaches and tell them, say, man, all you got to do is rattle and put pressure on his ass, man.
All right. Let him have it. All right, Chops. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you, guys.
All right,
good luck, Chops.
Yeah, take care.
Wow, that's quite a. Have you ever written a letter to the Dallas Cowboys organization? That's pretty good.
No, I haven't done that, but I will say that is our goal as well. We have to find a way to get to the rookie quarterback, make him nervous, make him move around, and make him make mistakes in Brock Purdy. This is not Tom Brady standing back there around for 20 years and can pick you apart. we have to find a way to make him just as nervous. Can we do that? That is our goal. That is something that Dan Quinn and Mike McCarthy are going to have to draw up and find a way to get to him, because if we don't, then he's going to sit there all day. And with those weapons, he's going to be fine. And I think that's for both teams, because Pollard and Elliott will do what they got to do. And the same thing with Lamb. We've used Hilton a lot more. Schultz has been good. Gallup's been coming back. So those positions have been really good on both sides. We have to find a way defensively, both of us, to slow the other team down and get to each other's quarterback.
All right, got a couple of comments here. Thank you for those. We appreciate those. Mark Sylvia says, I think Dallas can go to the Super Bowl. So he's thinking maybe that they'll beat the 49ers.
Well, you know what? To get there, you got to take one game at a time. And obviously, this is a big one. You're on the road again. It's hardcore. The other one is Philadelphia and the Giants. They've played each other twice, so they kind of know. Usually, division conference championships, Paul, it's the better teams now finally step up and show what they got. So that would obviously be Philadelphia, who's a 1 seed, and San Fran's a 2 seed. Same on the other side. That would be Kansas City and Buffalo. So you got to think of it that way. Usually the wild card one that just passes, the ones that anything can happen, and it's crazy. That's how the games are. This one's usually a little bit more. This is where defense step up. This is where it's time to settle in and watch some good football games down the stretch.
I'm not going to ask Mark if he guarantees that, because that might jinx you. You know what I mean?
Don't tell him that. Don't ask. That
could be the kiss of death.
Don't ask him that.
All right, we do have another comment here. This is from Claire Bursch. She's talking about Brady. Retire, please. Enjoy some life with your children. You already have enough money. Retire, please, says Claire.
Well, if he does, Claire, he's going to get a lot more at 10 years for $375 million to be an analyst for Fox Sports. So, listen, I'm there with you. He's got nothing more to prove to me. I know what he is, and I know a lot of other people do. We consider him the greatest of all time, and it's what I've seen. And he's got all the credentials to back it up. So it's time to think about your health. It's time to think about your kids, your family, moving on and doing the right thing. But I think he will come back.
All right, here's a guy who called the Dallas game. He was not worried at all. He's also a Dallas fan, and I don't know, he just wasn't worried about the greatest of all time. He figured that Dallas had it in the bag. It's Ryan from Rochester. How's it going?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Thank you.
Ryan, it's pretty much what you thought, and you thought that Dallas would have an easier time than I did. But I think you hit the nail on it. When they were only averaging 15, 16 points a game, which is kind of unlike Tom Brady-ish teams, they were struggling. And, right after the game, they fired Byron Leftwich. I still think they got good players with Evans and Godwin and Brate and Fournette and a young kid in the backfield as well. So they got some guys there, but the offensive line could not hold up. And Dallas took real advantage of that. You were on it. I was a little bit more skeptical of it. But when you're only averaging that, and that 8-9 record actually showed and proved that it just wasn't their year. Did we lose Ryan here, Paul?
No, sorry. Sorry about that. Anytime that happens, just point to your ears, and that means I got to hit a button over here. So I don't know. I just found it interesting because I know, Chris has been a Dallas fan for a long time. He sees the GOAT on the other side, even though Tampa Bay doesn't quite have the offense and they got all kinds of problems. Still in the back of your mind, I think he was thinking that maybe Tom had one more comeback left in the tank. But, Ryan, you kind of knew that it was all over for Tampa Bay pretty early in the game.
Yeah, well, once it got up to like 14, it wasn't even 14 nothing. It was 12 nothing. Even with Brett Maher missing as many extra points as he did, I really didn't see how Tampa was going to come back and win this, because once I'm like, okay, Dallas they've got an offensive groove going. They're going to score a bunch of points, and just despite the Carolina performance, that was the one consistent offensive performance on their part all year long. So I didn't see them coming back enough to win that game. And Micah Parsons and company, they were from really the first snap of the game, they were all over Tom. The offensive line has been abysmal and banged up the whole year. I just did not see it happening. And he was flinching back there. He didn't want to get hit. I just it's going to be a long night for him. And I am happy the Cowboys have moved on. Chris and I, we can agree to disagree on the multiple teams thing. But, I was, ever since he went to Tampa, I am guilty of, following my guy to Tampa. So part of me was rooting for him too. But I'm happy that Dallas is moving on. It'll be a very difficult matchup this weekend.
Ryan, let me ask you this question. On the play on the third series, and they go all the way down to the Dallas 4, and Brady throws that interception. If he doesn't throw that interception and he scores, do you see this as a different game?
It might be a little closer, but I don't think so, because after those first two possessions, when the Cowboys went 3 and out, they were dropping balls, and that kind of looked like the Tampa defense of old. Once they got that groove going, I'm like, Tampa's not going to be able to win a shootout with these guys, and I feel like even if they scored there, I feel like Dallas would have figured this out.
Okay, yeah. See, I felt a little different there, especially with the extra point problems, and it was only 12-0. I figured if they would score, that might change the momentum a little bit, give the defense a little hype, try a little bit more things, and get Tom the ball back quickly and see if he could go right back down the field again, which they didn't. And then Dallas did what they did and increased the lead. So, momentum is such big in playoffs. So I figured that one was pretty huge, that if they didn't score there, that favored Dallas. But if they did, I thought that'd keep them in the game, and it would be a lot tighter. And then what you saw when they played Carolina down the stretch, usually when you do that toward the end of the year, sometimes you can carry that into the playoffs. So that's why I was a little skeptical.
Who do you like in the game between Dallas and San Francisco, Ryan?
I hate to be the pessimistic Cowboys fan here, but, I got the 49ers in this one, because here's the thing. I want to believe in the Cowboys as much as the next guy. My dad and I, we want them to win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. The issue with this team all year long, it's been consistency, particularly on Dak Prescott's part. Mm-hmm. Sure, this might be the best game that I've ever seen him play this past Monday. But here's the thing. He looks like this one week, and then he looks like Jameis Winston the next. And this is one of the nastiest defenses I've seen in a while in San Francisco, with Nick Bosa coming off the edge, Eric Armstead on the inside. Charvarius Ward on the cornerback has been absolutely phenomenal, aside from this past week against DK Metcalf, but that guy's a freaking monster. But I don't think it's going to be as easy a go this time around. You've got to be mistake free, and even though they had a comfortable enough lead to beat Tampa despite the missed extra points, we're not going to have this privilege this week because of how good the 49ers are, and because of how cool, calm, and collected and poised that Brock Purdy has looked. So and they can score, and as Josh talked about with McCaffrey and company, they can score points. So you got to make those extra points, and I'm not sure if I trust them.
Yeah, and I think the intangibles are very important too. Flags, special teams, clock management, all that I think will come into a little bit more effect this week compared to what it was against Tampa, where it was a little easier, because things start to get a little bit tighter in games like this when you're playing a better defense and maybe some better weapons in what they have down there in San Francisco. So they have to be on all cylinders for this one to go in their favor and win. And of course, turnovers is probably the number one rule, that they have to win in this one. But hopefully they can do it. Some defense and get the Purdy. Again, hold McCaffrey, get him down. And as I told Paul the other night, Ryan, after the first two series, I says, we've got to establish the run, which then can get Dak for the pass. We got to do the same thing this week with Pollard and Zeke. Establish it, play action, rollouts, screens. Those things make it a lot easier when you can run the football. And when they did that in Series 3, I said to Paul, now it's our turn to get going, and they did.
I completely agree with that. Tony Pollard is going to have to be a huge part of this. Like, I really don't trust Zeke anymore. Like, we're paying him $50 million a year to be a pass protecting back and a short yardage back. So, you know, he's not that guy who's going to rip off 100 yards per game anymore. So if the run game starts and stops with Tony Pollard at this point, he's going to have to be huge because you know, when you've got, you know, Kyle Shanahan calling plays on the other side, you gotta keep that offense on the bench as much as humanly possible. And you know, when they have to go out there, Micah Parsons is going to have to be, you know, what he's been, trying to go for that defensive player of the year type player. He's going to have to get to Brock Purdy, and as well as he's been playing, you got to make him look like a rookie if you want to win this game.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of crossing routes are very important because that's what that offense does. Debo comes across the middle. Ayuk comes across. You know, it's going to be interesting if we're going to stay man on man or go zone, and if Diggs is going to be the guy on top of Samuel, because that's going to be very important, the way they scheme and how they get Purdy them short passes and quick release to get rid of the ball. So we got to get to him fast, but at the same time, we got to have a good man-to-man and cutting across and staying on there. Diggs and Samuel, that would be a good matchup.
All right, I want to ask you about Tom Brady. You know, I'm watching him in that game, and maybe for the first time I thought, gee, you know, it looks like the game is speeding up on him a little bit. Now, that was partly due to the fact that he had no protection. The offensive line, I thought, was terrible. He just had no time to do anything with the ball. There's a couple of times he just threw the ball into the ground, which I don't ever remember seeing him do. He tried to throw the ball out of bounds, and he was ducking, and that's the reason why he couldn't get it out of bounds. So I thought the game had sped up on him a little bit. On the other hand, it doesn't matter who's back there, right? When Tampa Bay played against Kansas City a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, and Mahomes had a couple of offensive linemen out, you saw what happened there. Mahomes was running for his life, except he can move around a little more than Brady. But the fact of the matter is, you know, they lost because of that, more so than will Brady beat Mahomes. It's easy to say that, but he didn't have an offensive line. So the question is, where do you think he's going to go? And do you think he still has anything left in him? Do you think that, you know, he's going down this terrible road of, you know, you don't want to see him embarrass himself. You know what I mean? Because that can happen. We saw that happen with Willie Mays in baseball. We saw it happen to a number of athletes that stayed too long. Do you think he has anything left in the tank? And where do you think he might likely end up?
I think he has like maybe another good year or two left in him. Like, you know, of course, watching it on Monday, you know, there's the pessimistic side of me that's like, you know, okay, just hang it up. If it's going to look more like this, just retire already. But, you know, in terms of where he might end up, you know, I'm kind of sick of seeing San Francisco on the list. That's not happening because forget about, you know, what, you know, Brock Purdy's doing right now. They invested 3 first-round picks to move up and grab Trey Lance years ago. So they've got a young QB room long term. As much as I'd like to see that, I don't think that's going to happen. So I'd say that the Raiders are the most likely because of, you know, the Josh McDaniels connection there. Miami, I only see happening if Tua retires because of all the concussions he's had, which I kind of hope he does because I actually want him to have a brain. And maybe the Jets. It depends on who they hire as their new offensive coordinator. And we've seen some names going around, but maybe, who knows? Maybe out of the blue, Bill O'Brien goes to the Jets and they hire, like, say, Mike Munchak as their offensive line coach. You know, maybe that familiarity draws him there. And I'll tell you that if he goes to New York, that would be my mom's dream come true because she loves both Tom Brady and Robert Saleh, the coach, and so do I.
And if he's in the AFC East, that means 2 games against the Patriots. Oh, my gosh.
Box office right there.
All right, Ryan. Well, thank you very much for calling in with your interesting comments as usual, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks for having me on. And again, Paul, congratulations on becoming a granddad.
Yeah,
congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really, really, it's really fun and amazing. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, Ryan from Rochester, one of our top callers here on Santos on Sports, 774-762-6234. What do you think is going to happen with Tom Brady? And by the way, you know, the Patriots, right? Talking about Bill O'Brien. He just mentioned Bill O'Brien. Apparently, he is being interviewed by the Patriots. Nick Caley The tight ends coach is also being interviewed by the Patriots to be the offensive coordinator. Keenan McCardle, coming from the Vikings, he's the receiver coach. Kind of has that Shanahan scheme, which didn't seem to transition too well this year with the Patriots. So what direction do they go in? And like, is it this a situation where you think Bob Kraft is telling Bill, hey, you got to make some changes here. We can't have a run back of what happened last year. Behind the scenes, they say it got pretty ugly between, Mac Jones thinking it wasn't working, Andrews and, Hunter Henry. They were all like, what the hell's going on here? This is terrible. And at the same time, the whole thing came unraveled behind the scenes. So what do you see the Patriots doing here? Are they really is Kraft really going to interfere with the football operations to that degree?
I don't think as desperate as, it might lead us to believe. But I think he might have some say. They did nothing last year, obviously free agency. They did it the year before. So they got a pretty good cap coming around to try to make some things happen. I think it starts on the offensive line first to get that ready. And then find a way, Paul, to include Henry and Smith, those two guys, and then add something on the wideouts to help along. So now Myers, I believe, is a free agent, and Aguilar is a free agent. Those two guys might be let go, and then you find replacements for that. I mean, who knows? But that's how I see them working. If Kraft gets involved in that situation, which he told the fans he would think about that and have some words to figure out how to reconstruct this team. Sure, I mean that's what the good ones do. Even Jerry Jones does that, and Jerry just does it a lot more louder than Bob does it. So let's see if he does it behind the scenes. They find a way to make things happen. As for Brady, Paul, you have to realize he's there to win now. There's no down the road. So whoever he goes to, it's got to be to the team that wants to win right now. It's not for the long haul. It's none of that. So these teams we're talking about, who wants to and has the opportunity to win right now. So that's something that you're going to have to look at. And that's why Miami's not that bad. Because as Ryan says, I would rather have a healthy brain in Tua who may not play, and he may say, hey, I'm done with football. That slides Brady in, and you got Bridgewater and you got Thompson. You're not losing anything because Tua is now out. If Tua stays, well, then you've invested so much into Tua, it's hard to turn to Tom and say, give it to us now. So that will be kind of interesting to see because it's just a one-time deal if you're taking Tom Brady as your quarterback.
All right, let's go to Nelson in Fall River. You're on Central Zone Sports.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be on the air with you again on the phone line.
All right. Thank you.
I just want to say I think you both do a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I enjoy the content very much.
Thank you.
Awesome, Nelson. Nelson, where you see Tom Brady going?
I see him going back home. I think he's done. I think he has fulfilled his career in great stride. I mean, he has the most Super Bowls. I mean, the records speak for themselves. I think he has done enough. The decline is starting. Maybe if he wants to go one more season, I think if he does that, that should be the last season. But if I were him, I would just go with the lucrative deal that he has, I think, with Fox Sports as a sports analyst.
Yep.
Multi-million-dollar contract waiting for him. But what I see with Tom is he doesn't want to let it go because this is all he's known for, like, God knows for how long, his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough to let go of an activity that you're so used to. But I think he's having a tough time dealing with the reality that the end is here, and he has to pass the ball to the next generation of new players coming up. So I think that's where he's heading. If he's going to play, let it be the last year in New England to finish off his season, and then call it a career.
So 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, high 60s in the completion ratio, and still a great quarterback rating up in the 90s and maybe even to the hundreds. So the statistics are still there. I think his IQ is still there. I think his actions are still there. Can you see Belichick and Kraft talking to one another and say, okay, we're going to put Zappy and Mac Jones on the back burner. We're going to bring Tom in, and we're going to have these three quarterbacks together, and we're going to watch Mac and Zappy learn for 1 year about Tom, because you're saying that's all that Tom has. That's why it's difficult for me to say Tom comes back to New England when you have two young guys like that.
Oh, I absolutely agree with your assessment. I mean, the numbers are there. For me, I just don't want it to be more of an embarrassment for him going forward, because I feel as if he should just leave with the way it is, go with your head held high. And, I think if it's going to be his last season, I think Belichick and Kraft should talk it over and let him retire a Patriot. But hey, only Tom knows what Tom knows. But for whatever it is, we won't see an athlete like that ever again. How he's been drafted at the near bottom and has came up with the stats and the record. The record speaks for himself. I also want to say my anxiety is over with Aaron Judge. Thank God they closed the deal. Now the Red Sox fans can just shut the hell up and with all this, he's coming to Boston talk. I couldn't take it. But I'm glad it's over. So we'll see how it goes. I think he has a very long career. And lastly, guys, I want to say to all the Dallas Cowboy fans, just sit back, just wait. They're an accident waiting to happen. Their kicker missed 3 or 4 straight from extra points. That is just the tip of the iceberg. They're not going anywhere. And like Stephen A. Smith, he says it all the time, every year. Just relax, just wait. They will never let you down.
All right, Nelson. Well, thank you very much for the call. I see that. I see. Thank you very much. I see. As Nelson was talking, Nelson from Fall River, yep. I could see Chris's face grimacing and every shot that he was taking, an accident wait to happen. Ooh, and they're not going anyway. Oh, and he was letting you have it.
Well, the comment about the kicker, and obviously the silence of waiting to happen. Hey, listen, I get it. And I said before, there's 32 teams. You try and be the best out of that. Very difficult to do. He cut me off, Paul, when he started talking about Stephen A. Smith. So I can't get into that because I am not a fan of Stephen A. Smith at all. I think he's just a classless showman. He has no idea how to be a sports commentator. So I have nothing for that guy. So I won't even get involved with Stephen A. Smith. So he's by me. I could care less about that guy. But we have to make sure to play a perfect game. You can't make mistakes, can't miss extra points. You can't throw interceptions. And Nelson's right. You got to make sure that he's saying, wait for it to happen. Well, we're hoping as Cowboy fans that it doesn't happen. And as much as Patriots fans, don't want Mac to do it, and we want to make the playoffs. I get all that stuff, and that's part of the game, and that's why you play it. And hopefully for us, we're there defensively, offensively, special teams, all phases of the game, and we show up on Sunday. And as Ryan has said, that's been the weakness of Dallas, the inconsistency to get there.
All right, we'll keep those comments coming and those calls too, 774-762-6234. We enjoy having you on. It sounds like the callers enjoy being on once we have you on. So I want to hear your opinion and keep the comments coming too. And in fact, we got a good comment over here. I think it's a good comment. I put that question up. Where is Brady going to go next year? Doris Slaughter Swan answers it this way. Who cares?
Well, when you're one of the all-time greats, people want to know what it's like, and he's done and been so successful that people can't get away from the point of what's next for Tom Brady. And I get it, and we all understand it. And there'll be some other players. the same way. What's going to happen to them later on in their career and where they're going to go if they're going to hang it up. But it's such a big name that it's the talk every single year. As much as Belichick is, Paul, you coming back another year. It's the first thing they say when the season's out and they know that the game's on, they can't make the playoffs. What are you doing next year? And as Bill says, and Tom says, I don't get time for that right now. I'll just take it day by day, and we go from there. And that's just how it is in sports.
All right, let's go to Butch. You're on Santos on Sports.
Gentlemen,
How's it going?
Tom Brady is not walking through that door.
He's not coming to New England.
All right.
That's a fairy tale, and people, that think that that's actually going to happen. It just kind of amuses me a little bit every time I hear it. I just think, he's not coming back here. Coach Belichick is not going to put up with that dog and pony show, and it's just, it's just not part of his fabric, and it's just not part of serious football as far as that guy is concerned. But Chris, there's one thing I wanted to ask you about. I was wondering now with the Patriots not making the playoffs and Tom Brady now out of the playoffs, who are the people around here going to root for, Chris? What are they going to do without being able to change hats from New England to Tampa Bay? There's no one left. I can't see him rooting for anyone in the AFC, but maybe the NFC. I'm not sure.
Well, as fans have told me, Butch, anybody who plays Dallas is who we're rooting for. So you got to expect this weekend there's going to be a lot of San Fran fans, and I kind of expect that around here to sit back and say, go 49ers, which I have no problem if that's who you're rooting for and you don't want Dallas to win. That I get that. But don't sit there and say, San Fran's my team. If I hear that, now I have an issue, especially when you're New England fans or even Tampa fans. But now you're going to tell me you're San Fran fans. That can't happen. If you want to root for them, hey, that's fine. And you don't want to root for Dallas, that's fine. I perfectly get it. I understand. But don't tell me that your team is San Fran. That will frustrate me and a lot of other people.
Now, Butch, they're going to play San Francisco, obviously. There's a big difference between, playing Tampa Bay and playing a team like San Francisco, perhaps the best defense in the league. And, the other thing, too, I always talk about the it factor. Does Dak have the it factor? Well, the it factor was never tested in a blowout. The it factor is only when, you're down by 3 and there's 30 seconds or a minute left in the game and you got 2 timeouts and you got to come down the field and win the game. That's the it factor. So I don't know. I mean, like Ryan said before, 1 week, he looks really good, like he's worth that money. And then the next week, he tends to blow it in the big moment. So I don't know. How do you see the game lining up with the 49ers?
Well, I think that if for everyone that's left now is, everyone is good. Everyone, has had, good moments this year. They've won games that they've had to win to get into the playoffs, or they've sustained a long winning streak to win their division. So and I think over the years, there's teams that have a lot of experience, and I think experience is going to really be the part that brings teams over the top, in my opinion. It's very hard for a team to be, a fairy tale type team with limited to no experience in the playoffs, and then they go ahead and charge and win the Super Bowl. That rarely happens. I'm not saying it can't, but it may. But these teams that have experience in the playoffs, like Kansas City, or they have coaching, even Jacksonville head coach has a Super Bowl ring. Even the Dallas head coach, as much as people, criticize him for some of the decisions he made, he's been part of a Super Bowl team. He was the head coach of a Super Bowl team. So, I think he's learned through experience some of the things of what it takes to get people, ready to play in the playoffs. Now, then players do have to play after that. So, I think that, San Francisco with their rookie quarterback, but, they'll have some coaching and some people on that sideline that have been to the playoffs before and bring some experience with them and teach people how to get prepared and what needs to be done to win in the playoffs in the NFL. But it's going to be interesting. Everyone's good now. Division games may be limited. There'll be some, but you're going to play opponents that you haven't seen. is off, and it's going to be exciting. I think that Dallas has a chance to hang in there. Certainly, San Francisco is going to be the favorite, but we all sit back waiting for this rookie quarterback to make mistakes and lose a game, and it just hasn't happened yet. I'm pretty excited about seeing how it all plays out.
Yeah, I am too. And I think, we're talking about that side, but let's talk about the other side, because I think this Buffalo and Cincinnati game could be a true barn burner, as well as a tremendous football game. Two teams that have really impressed over the last few years. And you talk about good coaching, you've talked about great players, and you've talked about experience. I think this one turns into one of the classics this weekend. So Buffalo and Cincinnati, look for that one. The other two, it's going to be tough for Jacksonville to go into Kansas City with, just barely getting by how they did with the Chargers. And Kansas City with so much experience with Reed and Mahomes and what they have in Kansas City, that's going to be difficult for them. And then on the opposite side, it's two teams. The Giants haven't been there in a long time. New coach, new quarterback, a lot of things to try to get them in experience. And even the Eagles, with Hurts and what they've done, they haven't been there either too. So, those teams are going to do what they have to do. But I look for the Buffalo and Cincy game, probably the number one out of the weekend. I would think Dallas and San Fran would probably be the second. And then the other two come in there as the games to really be, if I had to put it in that order. But it should be a lot of fun, especially Buffalo and Cincinnati.
Chris, is that Buffalo and Cincinnati in a neutral site?
No, that's going to be at Buffalo. If the winner is Buffalo and the winner is Kansas City, that will be played in Atlanta in a neutral site.
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced of Buffalo. They have not played as well later in the year as they did earlier in the year, and I think Cincinnati is peaking at the right moment. I think their quarterback doesn't seem to faze him. Not to say that Josh Allen has any flaws either, but hey, we'll see. I think you're right. That's probably the game of the weekend, but
Right.
like I said, I think they're all going to be good because I think everyone left is good, and they have certain advantages and disadvantages that kind of equal everybody out. But you're right. I like the way you have those games ranked.
Hey, Butch.
I think it's a big motivational game for Buffalo. The way that's going to go for them with obviously what had happened a few weeks ago. And ever since then, it just seems like everything's kind of fallen into place for them. And I just think for some reason, this is Buffalo's turn to say, this is our year, and we're going to the bowl and probably take this one home. So I'm going with the sentimental factor, Paul and Butch. I think it's the Buffalo Bills year.
Well, before I let Butch go here, I have a lot of talent in front of me in terms of football knowledge. Chris Santos and Butch on the line here. And something intrigues me. When Brady and Belichick separated, right? Mm-hmm. I thought Belichick was going to do as well, if not better, than Brady. I turned out to be wrong with a capital W, right? Greatest quarterback of all time. But, you look at it, Brady did go to a team that had all the parts, and he was the guy that could put him over the hump. Belichick is kind of screwed up as a GM, right? But Belichick once famously said, I can win with any top 15 quarterback, right? So I thought to myself, well, maybe that's true. Maybe New England was going to do what San Francisco is doing now. That's what I thought, right? So now I'm looking across the league. You see Purdy, you see Thompson from Miami. Even Zappy came in and did a good job, right? So if you have the right coaching and you have the right offensive line and you have a good scheme and you have plays being called correctly, and all 22 players are doing what they're supposed to do, can you win with a quarterback like Purdy or Thompson or Zappy? Maybe you can. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I think, if you plan correctly and you don't have a lot of things go wrong at the same time, again, I think I've on your show have mentioned, losing the offensive line coach Garnecchia and having Josh McDaniels leave and Tom Brady leave and that type of stuff. I think they mismanaged without a good succession plan for the quarterback. Whatever reasons, that caused that, I'm not sure whether it was ownership, whether it was Coach Belichick or not. But I think you can. I think, although in today's NFL, people say the number one person you gotta have is a superstar quarterback. But yes, you're right, Paul. You just mentioned three guys
Right.
that are not, and they're winning. They're in the playoffs, and they have a bright future. And until it's all said and done, I guess we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
We are definitely gonna find out.
All right, Butch. Well, thank you very much for your very eloquent, knowledgeable contribution to Santos on Sports.
All right, fellas. Good job.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, how, well, I can win with any top 15 quarterback. I'm like, no, you can't. Are you freaking kidding me? No, you can't. All right, man. I think we got one more comment. One more comment from Butch? No, he's hanging up. Okay. Thank you very much, Butch, for calling. So at first I thought, yeah, maybe you can. Maybe if you had the right scheme, and Brady, as great as he is, maybe he's that system quarterback and, the Patriot way and blah, blah, blah. And then the last couple of years, I'm like, oh, God, that's a lot of nonsense. You have to have a Burrow, or you have to have a Josh Allen, or you have to have a Mahomes. Oh, now I'm pendulum swinging. You can change my mind easy if you shoot me some evidence. Now I see some quarterbacks that this guy not only was, picked late in the draft. You take was it Lawrence was the first overall pick? Is that who was the first overall pick?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
All right, so Lawrence is the first overall pick. Okay. And this guy's the last overall pick. Purdy at the other end, completely at the totally other end of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And Purdy's still going. And Lawrence is on Jacksonville. Well, he's out because he's in Jacksonville. I'm sure if Lawrence was on San Francisco, he'd still be playing. So there is something to that. But the quarterback can't be a bum. But I think a decent quarterback, it does seem like you can win.
Well, Lawrence is still playing. They beat the Chargers.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. He's still playing.
And he's got Kansas City, City this week. So
Thompson is out.
The two young guns, obviously, is Purdy and Lawrence
at the opposite ends of the draft.
Right, and then the veterans, obviously, Allen, Mahomes,
right.
Prescott's been around a while. Hurts still kind of young, getting his feel in, and even Daniel Jones, who's been another one that's there as well too. So, listen.
But a couple of years ago, they said Jones was a bum.
I don't like the comparison, and I never did, that who's better, Belichick or Brady. I never saw that. I don't like it. To me, it's called a team for a reason. Mm-hmm. You've got to gel together. The coach, the quarterback, the offense line, the coaching staffs, the personnel, everything has to come together, Paul. I just can't say it can be one or the other. I don't really care for that. That's just my opinion. Others will say, oh, no, it was all Brady. Others will say, no, it was all Belichick. To me, I just think it has to be everybody gelling together. That's just
all fairness, right? The last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
The team that Brady was on, right, was a better team than Belichick was coaching. No matter who, no matter whose fault it was, if it was Bill's fault for screwing up the roster or whatever, there's no question that, like, when Tom came into Foxborough to play the Patriots, Tampa Bay was a better team, and the Patriots almost beat them, but they gave him a run for it. But, if you're on a better team than I'm on, or I'm on a better team than you're on, and we're both about the same in terms of our talent, our ability, it's really hard to factor in, how much was that one person, because you got 22 people on the field at any given time.
Yeah, the personnel was much better for Tampa than New England at that time that they met. And so, players leave, players stay, players retire, and it comes in cycles and you move on. And the Patriots were very fortunate in a good organization for those years to replenish when people left, to get good crop around the same age that could grow together and then continue on winning what they did without people leaving. And if they did leave, okay, it might be one spot and you cover that one spot. It's not like an entire defense is gone and you're replacing everybody. So you can get away with those things year by year, but they did a good job in that time that they were winning for putting it all together, offense and defense, and growing together and been around for a long time. So that's what made that very impressive.
The Patriots had a tough time, like, shifting over to the so-called, and they call it, quotation, the Shanahan style offense.
Yeah.
But, and a lot of the experts were critical. They were looking at it. They were saying it's all screwed up. People are bumping into each other. Nobody knows what they're doing. But maybe Bill is looking at the San Francisco 49ers and saying, that's where we have to go. That's the direction that we have to go. And now maybe he didn't implement it right, and maybe there was a lot of screw ups on how they did it. But maybe he's looking at that style of offense and saying, yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to do what they do.
Yeah, and he better do a better job, because what I seen from San Fran and what I seen from New England were two totally different offenses and the way they move. So he better pick it up a lot better than what they did this year, because it's just like apples and oranges in what I saw on offense from both teams.
All I know is that Chris Santos' team is in the playoffs. That's right, the
Still there.
playoffs.
I'm still hanging around, and that's our goal every year, to make it. And then when you get there, you see what you can do. But only one team can win out of 32. So you got to have, 21, 22 great games, right?
Yeah. I got to tell you,
said and done.
as a Patriots fan, I was looking at some of those teams play last week, like Miami and some of that. I'm thinking, man, Patriots, they could have been there. They might have got knocked out in the first game, but some of these teams, they're terrible. I'm looking at the Patriots are just as good as this team of building screwing up. But anyway, what do I know? He's the greatest coach of all time. Anyway, I'd like to thank Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River, Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton, Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, and John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford, and Sammy Santos. Sammy Santos is on board here tonight.
welcome, Sammy. There you are in the background, guy.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the world, and welcome to Santos on Sports.
That's our new grandson. He was born right around the time that Dallas pulled off a big win. So, I can see Chris Santos as he grows up. He might have to, hand him a Dallas Cowboy hat at some point and see what happens.
Like I can pass on all my things to him, Paul, if he wants. Right. Plus, I can't worry about. I got to get to your son Dylan and talk to him.
All right, that was a fun show. Good callers, nice comments. Really appreciate that. We enjoy that too, and I know you do too. So please continue to do that in the future. We're always happy to hear from you. And for Chris Santos, I am Paul Santos, the Santos on Sports. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again next time. And I'm sure a lot will happen between now and the next time that we chat. We still got to get to the Celtics and the Bruins. I think our thought process is once the NFL, we're going to have months and months to talk about the Bruins and the Celtics. But there's so much to talk about there, and we'll get to that too, we promise. All right. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.